Chapter 3. After the last bell, I collect my little brothers, Miko and Alexei, from their classrooms, and Alcomso and Mark Richard do the same. We walk through Coulter and on home together. On the outskirts of Coulter is where Alcomso and her family live in an apartment. Mark Richard and his brother Gary live in a trailer out near us. They're close enough that sometimes we can even hear their parents arguing and throwing stuff. "What are you doing for your STEM project?" Mark Richard asks Alcomso and me. "Don't even mention it," I say. "I haven't started." "Me either," says Alcomso, "but that prize sure sounds sweet." "What would you buy with $250? Do you think they give it to you in cash? I've never even seen a $100 bill in real life." "Bikes, for sure," says Mark Richard, "and a whole bunch of corn dogs." What's weird right now is that I can't think of what I'd spend $250 on. Even though all the things I don't have bother me all the time, I've gotten used to being bothered in that way. Alcomso grips the sleeve of my coat, Toivo's old wool shirt. "Maybe you could get yourself a new jacket." "Yeah," I say, "maybe a new coat." I'd take my whole family out for cheese pizza. As we approach her apartment building, Alcomso's little brothers nearly dash out into the street before she grabs each of them and pulls them back on the sidewalk. "No," she says, "don't you ever cross that street without me." They protest and say that they're big enough, but Alcomso gives them a face like she means it, and they stop. A truck goes roaring by. "See," she said, "you could get hit." The back of the truck has a bed full of pipes. "Aren't those the pipes your grandpa's factory makes?" Mark Richard asked me. Sometimes Mark Richard's dad works for Grandpa's factory. Lots of people in town do, since there aren't very many other places to get a job. But they get hired and laid off, so their jobs aren't really reliable. I guess so. Grandpa doesn't always treat his workers that great, and since a lot of his workers' kids are my classmates, I hear about it when their moms and dads are unemployed because of Grandpa. I don't care about that stupid factory. "Well, I would if I were you," says Alcomso. "Maybe you'll inherit it someday." "I wonder where those trucks are going," says Mark Richard. His dad also sometimes works as a truck driver, which is another pretty common way to try and make a living around here. That gravel road is too small for that kind of traffic, and it just leads out into the country. I think about the map on Mr. Flores' screen. I think about the drilling. "Miles and miles and miles beneath the surface," he had said. Wastewater pond. I shudder. Alcomso takes her brothers by the hand and calls "See you" over her shoulder as they cross the road to go home. Mark Richard and I continue on. The sidewalk ends and the road turns to dirt right where the Coulter Water Tower stands. On one side of the road are farm fields, and on the other side are woods. When a car comes, we move off to the woods side. Mark Richard grabs my arm and pulls me aside. "Hey," I say. He points to the ground, where there's a big, brown mound. My brothers run over. "Bear poop," Miko shouts. "Get a stick," Alexei says. "Don't you dare," I say. "You're not playing with bear poop." Gary puts the toe of his boot right to the edge of it. Mark Richard yanks him away. "Don't mess your shoes. Those are the only ones you have." The boys whine, but they listen and move on down the road. "You don't like your grandpa much, do you?" Mark Richard sneezes into his elbow. "You got a cold again?" I ask. "All the time," he says. "You don't have to answer about your grandpa. I was just curious." "It's okay. Grandpa thinks he knows what's best for everyone without asking them." "Yeah, I understand," he says. "But think about all the cool stuff you could have if you lived with him." "I don't ever want to live with him," I say. "I want to stay with Toivo." Mark Richard's parents don't take care of their kids half as good as Toivo takes care of us. They don't act very grown up. Last year, Mark Richard's baby sister got taken away and put into foster care in a home 4 hours away. Now he only gets to see her once a month. When she first got removed, Mark Richard cried in school for about a month straight. We keep walking until there's a little clearing in the woods where Mark Richard's trailer is. A couple of overweight cats play with a pop can. A few cords of wood are stacked up messily along the driveway. Mark Richard's house is heated with a wood stove in winter, like ours. "You'll need a lot more wood than that," I say. "I know it. Mom says Dad's a lazy son of a gun for not cutting more. But I know where a dead tree finally fell down, so I'll go out and hack off the easy branches. Come on, Gary. Gary clings to Miko. I don't want to go home. I want to go to Miko's house. Some other time. Mark Richard puts his arm around Gary. Maybe Mom made us a snack. He leads Gary up the driveway. Bye, he says to me. Bye. I stare up at the trailer. Mark Richard's mom stands at the screen door. I raise my hand and wave at her, but she just turns away. Want to walk to school together tomorrow? I shout after Mark Richard. He gives me a thumbs up. When we get home from school, my little brothers race off into the woods. I find Toivo in the shed. He's got 3 wild turkeys spread eagle on a butchering table and a headless gutted deer strung up from the rafters. The head and a gloopy pile of innards rest on a garbage bag. A bucket of water steams at his boots. His hands drip crimson with blood. Bits of fur and feathers stick to his fingers. What's a wastewater pond? I ask. He spins around. Well, hello to you too, he says. He talks with a cigarette dangling out of the corner of his mouth. Yes, I had a nice day as well. Sorry, I say. Hi, how was your day? Fine, thanks, he says. He points to the corner of the garage to where I left the bag with my mushroom in it this morning. What'd you find for us? A big one, I say. I bring the sack over and open the top. Very nice, he nods. Want to pluck the turkey legs? With his knife, he points to the water bucket. Got the hot water right there. Plucking feathers used to be Mom's job. Now it's mine, ever since Mom and baby Maddie were killed in a car crash right near the water tower on the edge of town. In a couple of days, it'll be 2 years ago. It's a really sad story, but everybody has one, and lots of times somebody important in the tale is dead. Toivo slides his knife around the joints of the turkey he's working on and splits the breastbone. Then he goes to the deer hanging from the rafter and slaps its side. Look at this guy. I've seen him hanging around in the woods, and this morning I got a perfect shot off. I happen to know that Toivo can't afford a hunting license and has gotten in trouble before for poaching. Unlike most other hunters, though, he doesn't do it for fun. He does it because we need the food. He's huge, I say. Lots of meat. Look at those back straps. He reaches up and tugs tight on the rope's knot. Toivo is tall and reedy. He smokes cigarettes pretty regularly to keep his jitters tamped down. His time in the Iraq War made him jumpy. Sometimes he talks about his time in the Marines, but most of the time he doesn't. Indeed, he says, to be honest, I'm relieved. We were getting pretty low on supplies there. I think about the biscuit and ketchup sandwiches the boys and I choked down for lunch, and how nice it would have been to have had a slice or two of venison sausage on them. I hold the turkey leg by the claw and dunk the muscle in hot water, lift it up and down, until the skin relaxes enough for me to rub the feathers off. Then I settle into an old crooked chair and pull the feathers out by the handful, flap them off into a plastic bag.